I'm pleased to introduce Dr. David Suzuki. He's a grandfather. You may have known him as the host for 30 years of The Nature of Things. He's received countless honorary degrees. He's joining us live from his home in Vancouver. David Suzuki, we're pleased to have you here. I'm going to turn it over to you, and you've got about 15 minutes.
Thank you very much. I won't take all of 15 minutes because the fact is I don't have anything to contribute to you on the specific issue we're talking about. I can only provide, I hope, a big picture context to consider them. First of all, thank you very much for including me on this important meeting. Thank you all for coming to the meeting on a Saturday afternoon, and especially thank you to the people who are on the speakers list here for, especially Gordon, who I know has been devoting his life to the issue for his entire lifetime. So I feel honored but privileged to be here. I too would like to begin by acknowledging that I speak to you from the traditional stolen lands of the Coast Salish people, the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh. And they are the original occupants of this land and have lived here as a model of sustainability for over 10,000 years. I'm overwhelmed by the fact that the kind of issue you're dealing with in terms of nuclear waste and how we eliminate it is something that is a very long-term issue you're confronting, and I'm overwhelmed with the fact that I just returned from the release of Johan Rockström's latest work on planetary boundaries in New York. I hope all of you know that Rockström has defined 9 areas absolutely crucial for not only human survival and well-being, but all other animals as well. These 9 boundaries include fresh water, the amount of fresh water we have. It includes the pH of the oceans. It includes, of course, the amount of carbon in the atmosphere, the nitrogen cycle and phosphorus cycle, and so on. And these 9 boundaries delineate the limits within which we can live in a truly sustainable way. And we've now exceeded 6 of those 9 boundaries. Passing one of the 9 boundaries is scary enough. We've passed 6 of them and are about to pass a 7th boundary. So we're in what's called the extreme danger zone, having passed the safe limits. And according to Johan Rockström, we only have 5 years to get back into the safe zone. So the kind of issues you're talking about, of course, go on for thousands, will go on for thousands of years. So if I could just give you a big picture look at why we're in such a mess. I'm a biologist, so I look at humans in terms of biology. And, one of the remarkable things that we've been able to do with modern genetics is using DNA. We can now trace the movement of human beings across the planet over time. And if we then go backwards and follow the trails back over time, they all lead back to Africa 150,000 years ago. That's where our species was born. And I'm still waiting for the Ku Klux Klan to invite me to give a speech so I can tell them, we're all Africans. The hell's your problem? That was our birthplace. And if you think of us as an animal, this 2-legged furless ape in the grasslands of Africa, we were not a very impressive animal. There weren't many of us. We weren't very big, fast, or strong. Look at how many of us wear glasses. I mean, I wouldn't have lasted very long on those grasslands with my eyesight. And you have to wonder, how the hell did that 2-legged furless ape achieve the record that we have? It's a really remarkable, a remarkable story. And it's happened very, very recently in our evolutionary time. For 95% of our existence, we were a nomadic hunter-gatherer. We carried everything we owned on our backs, following animals on their migrations, searching for plants through the seasons. We knew we were utterly dependent on, we were embedded in the natural world and utterly dependent on nature for our survival and well-being. Well, you ask, how did we survive over that time? Well, of course, our evolutionary survival strategy was based on the human brain. We were smart, and we were curious, we were observant, we remembered, we were inventive, and those qualities helped us in our survival over time. And I think one of the most important attributes that emerged from that brain was that we recognized that we invented an idea, a notion called the future. I mean, the future doesn't exist. It's just an idea from the human brain. The only thing that exists is now and what we can remember from the past. But because we invented the notion of a future, we realized we could affect the future by what we do in the present. As if, based on what we know, if we look ahead, we could see where there were dangers and where there were opportunities. And we could choose a path to avoid danger and exploit opportunity. That was our great gift. Now, of course, it's simple in the beginning. We are walking along a path, it branches in two, and we remember, oh yeah, Dad went on to the right. He damn near got killed by a saber-toothed tiger, but Mom went to the left and found something good to eat. So I'm going left. Foresight was that great survival strategy of our species. Look ahead, see the dangers, and avoid the dangers, exploit the opportunities. And we've embedded the importance of that strategy in the stories that we tell each other. Joseph, when he was taken to Egypt by his captors, Joseph had this ability to read dreams. And I'm not a Christian, but I know that in the Bible, Joseph's ability to read dreams gave him the warning that they were in for a series of years of drought. And he told the Pharaoh, store grain, there's a famine coming. And because of his foresight coming from reading dreams, they survived the 7 years of famine. And Noah, of course, was building an ark, and he was a carpenter, and the voice said, build an ark. He said, I'm just a carpenter. My neighbors will laugh at me. Build an ark. There's a flood coming. And we know what happened then as a result. And the indigenous people, they speak constantly of 7 generations, that what we do should be shaped by 7 generations of our ancestors and the legacy that we received from them. And we should think ahead of 7 generations of our children. And anything that we do, we must see should not in any way discourage the future for our children for 7 generations. And when you think about a political vision, a politician, what is their vision? Well, it can't extend beyond the next election. And and one election can replace everything that this current generation of politicians will put in place. So it becomes very scary when you realize that we're not thinking in terms of these long-term implications of what we're doing today. And of course, the corporate vision is based on the quarterly report. Every 3 months, their well-being depends on what the quarterly report says. So they're not thinking long-term at all, and their drive is what? Doesn't have a damn thing to do with our well-being at all. It's profit. It's driven by profit. The faster they gain from their actions, the better they are off. So we're in this dilemma that we can't any longer. We can't depend on the political or the corporate agendas to take into account something as serious as what we do with our nuclear waste. We should look at our biology. We're a terrestrial, air-breathing mammal. We live on the surface of the planet, but our whole behavior has been based on the notion since the Industrial Revolution. We don't have to be bound by biological constraints at all. We're so smart that we have broken through all of the limits dictated by our animal nature. I mean, with telescopes, we can peer to the edge of the universe. With microscopes, we've discovered a world of life in a drop of water. Our machines work tirelessly around the clock. They're so huge they can move mountains. We can create lakes behind giant dams. We can escape gravity and live in outer space. We can explore right to the bottom of the ocean. We can pierce the crust of the planet. There seems to be no limit to what we can do, except our imagination. And now we've invented machines that can think more than us and can do our imagining for us. So what's gone on as we've escaped the constraints? Well, we've created problems that come from our technology, our science and technology, and we've seen how powerful our technologies can be, but how ignorant we remain about how the world works. When Paul Mueller discovered that DDT kills arthropods, including insects, but doesn't seem to affect plants or mammals, we thought, this is fantastic. We gave him a Nobel Prize in 1948. DDT began to be used massively, and we discovered a phenomenon we didn't know anything about called biomagnification. Spray at low concentrations, it's magnified up the food chain till you get to the breasts of women or the shell glands of birds, and you've concentrated DDT tens of thousands of times. How could we manage something as powerful as a pesticide like DDT when we didn't even know there was a phenomenon of biomagnification? When nuclear bombs were dropped on Japan, we didn't know there was a thing called radioactive fallout. That happened years later when bombs are tested over Bikini. We didn't know there were electromagnetic pulses of gamma rays that knock out electrical circuits. And it was only long after nuclear bombs had been unleashed that we discovered that there was a possibility of nuclear winter or nuclear fall. We didn't know any of these things, and then we're left at the end with a dilemma. We've invented nerve gases that are so powerful that one drop on your skin will kill you. And when we finally realized how dangerous these were, we had to sign treaties to get rid of them. What did we do? We dumped them in the deepest part of the oceans. Out of sight, out of mind. That's been the principle of our act. This has got to be the most dangerous thing I can think of, to drop these deadly nerve gases into the oceans on the belief that that we're out of trouble, because the canisters that we've stored them in will last. Anybody that's lived on the ocean for any length of time knows how corrosive ocean waters are. The idea that these powerful chemicals can be contained as long as they're in the bottom of the ocean is crazy. And of course, that's the issue with nuclear waste. We've created this enormous problem, and now we've got to somehow get rid of them. And the usual out of sight, out of mind. But we know nothing below the surface of this planet. You know, it's staggering. If you reduce the Earth to the size of a basketball, the layer of soil on which we are utterly dependent to grow the food that we depend on would be one atom thick. It's thin layer. The atmosphere would be thinner than a layer of saran wrap. That's the limits. And we've created this enormous problem with the wastes by concentrating these radioisotopes in the machines that we use. And now the question is, how the hell do we get rid of them? Get them underground. The deeper we go, the better we are. We don't know anything down there. But I can tell you, up until very recently, we thought that life ended at bedrock. And we thought it was sterile from that point on. But we kept drilling deeper and deeper, and the drill bits kept getting contaminated with microorganisms. And people finally had to admit those are not contaminants that were on the drill bits when they went down. They're coming from down there where we're drilling. And we now know that life goes down kilometers deep underground. And Stephen Jay Gould said, well, gee, if life is now, life on the surface of the planet is a very thin layer, but if you go down and there's life down, even though it's microbial life, if you're down 6 or 7 kilometers and you assume 6 or 7 kilometers around the planet, and then assume the concentration is about the same, very low, the amount of protoplasm underground will be greater than the amount of protoplasm above the ground. That's with all the trees and the whales and the elephants and everything. There's more protoplasm underground than above. What do those microorganisms do? We have no idea. Anybody that knows any biology, these bacteria have been down there for millions of years while all kinds of things are going on the surface of the planet. And they were stuck down there. Some of them only divide every 500 years. And they're down there eking out an existence. When a water molecule comes, boy, they grab onto that. We have to invent new phyla to classify them. Phyla are just under kingdom. These are like finding dinosaurs deep underground. We know nothing about them. We know nothing about energy transfer deep underground from the magma through the upper layers. We don't know what the flow of water is involved and whether life is involved. We don't know anything. And yet we're willing to put them at jeopardy because we've created a problem. We got to get our stuff down there. Let me just tell you, this is kind of not relevant to the nuclear issue, but I was giving a lecture at Princeton, and the world leader who on studying these underground microorganisms was there. And I said to him after my talk, I said, they're planning to pump billions of tons of carbon dioxide into the ground. What's that going to do to the life that you're working on? He said, I have no idea, but the methanogens will love it. I said, what's that? He said, those are bacteria that eat carbon dioxide and make methane. Methane, as you know, is over 80 times more powerful a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. So we're going to pump carbon dioxide down there, hoping to store it when the methanogens which will convert that carbon dioxide into 80 times more powerful a greenhouse gas. And we have no idea what's going to happen. So this just illustrates the lunacy right now, despite the work that's going on in these microorganisms. The biggest plan that the oil industry in Alberta is supporting is capture the carbon and carbon dioxide and pump it back into the ground. Carbon storage and sequestration. And, this is what the nuclear industry, of course, comes to us, and it's basically out of sight, out of mind, except that they've got an issue here. We're talking not where our safety standards have to be not measured in years or decades or even centuries, but millennia. First thing is, who's accountable for the consequences of this? Who can we throw in jail or fine? So there's no accountability in any of this. So that's one thing to always keep in your mind. The people who've created the problem are going to try to eliminate the problem in the cheapest way they can. How are they accountable for what they're proposing? So think about that. A politician, they think no further than the next election. So again, political accountability is a very short thing, and we're dealing with issues thousands of years into the future. The ones who will pay the price if there are unexpected consequences are going to be future generations, probably way more than 7 generations. So this is a context within which I'd like you to have your deliberations, understanding that we've grown so powerful in terms of science and technology, but the amount that we know about the world in which we live is so limited. We have no idea of the long-term consequences of our powerful technologies. I would say if the technologists and the scientists involved in disposal are so confident in the safety of their issues, then they should do it in the cities which are demanding the energy coming from the nuclear plants. Okay, if it's safe and you want to pump it down and store it under the city, which is where the people are demanding that energy. I'm sorry I don't give you anything that will help you in your conversation for the rest of this meeting, but I thank you for giving me the opportunity to present a few ideas to you. Thank you.
Thank you, David Suzuki, for joining us.